Click the links for Odyssey, Bit Chute, join channel, become a valued member, or support channel, coffee, or crypto, or subscribe star, where there are going to be other videos there. Join the Discord and the Telegram if you dare. I'm going to use this as an example. This is a starting image. This is Star Wars High Republic. They've got two series, and this one has got fantastic art, really cute art, but cuteness that works. You know, it's not overly done. So you've got this blonde-haired, green-eyed kid with the shaved side of the head, who's, of course, the bad guy because he's blonde. In modern comics, if you see blonde hair, some characters are like, what's that old Italian, the Italian storytelling trope that they use in that song? I think it's Scaramouche. There's these three like tropes that you used in Italian storytelling, so that's why he sung that. I think that's why he sung the lyrics, Scaramouche, do you do the fandango? Anyway, I'm saying that when you see certain characters, they fit a certain mold. The story is like, the question is asked and answered. The story, you can just turn the page. It's the cover, and you see the cover, and you might as well just turn the whole book over. You don't even need to read it, because it's like, oh, the introduction is the ending. You know who the characters are. As you scroll through this comic, you see there's some purse puppies in it. It's like, oh, well, they're going to be the Mary Sue's of the character, the story, and they are. So I think this is Star Wars High Republic. It's written for a younger audience, and it's, like I said, the drawing, the art is really cute. The other one isn't focused so much on ethnic groups so much as it's females versus males, and there's a bunch of aliens in it, and I don't think there's actually any men of European descent in it represented at all. There's a bunch of just aliens, and the thing with aliens or robots is it's kind of hard for the reader to identify with it. So the two leading characters are these two women, I think, and it's like, that's just who doesn't read comic books. And so they continue on their merry adventures, and the ending scene is the two women, one's an alien, one's a purse puppy, have defeated the blonde boy who betrayed the purse puppy. So he's laying in the background, and it's like you have the theme is this diverse group of, I don't know, plucky rebels was able to defeat the evil blonde kid, and you would never have the roles reversed. But the thing is, for good storytelling, you gotta reverse the roles. You gotta have her be the bad guy in some stories and some occasions. You gotta have the blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid be the hero. And they've been telling the same story for so many years now that like this kind of stuff's going to be a hard sell for anyone who's over about 10 years old. So I wanted to use that as an example to compare it and contrast it to something else, something that it is telling you right from the start that it's not going to be, Pravda from the Central Committee. Okay, and for compare and contrast, let me use this one series of images, even without the word balloons. This tells you an entirely different story. It tells you, obviously it tells you the time it's, unless they're doing a retro, if someone's flying retro airplanes, it gives you a vibe of when the story is somewhere, I don't know, it could be anywhere in the 30s and 40s. But it also tells you what kind of story it is. You look at this, and this is a very male story right from the start. Like, oh, I got a toxic masculinity. There's no such thing. That's just cultural Bolshevism. Those are just power and control words. That's funny, all those words they create, they use words as shields, like all those istophobic words. Those are just imaginary words. They build these words up as shields. They get them in the culture, and then they commit reprehensible acts. And then when you criticize those actors, they raise those shields. It's clever. It's you're dealing with people who are playing the long game. Anyway, so I imagine these like left-wing comics people going like, are we out of touch, or is it the kids? I love talking about comics. I love reading comics, even cringe stuff. And the thing is, with comics on YouTube, nobody cares about comics anymore. But it's interesting to me because the people behind the comics, including some people in Comicsgate, there's a lot of insane people in comics, more on the left, who they never fail to produce a fresh crop of cringe. Comics is the weirdest collection of usually obese soy people that you have ever seen. If you get on Twitter and you follow a bunch of these people, you kind of wonder how they manage to get through the day without being outraged over every little thing. And part of it is like they're putting on an act for Twitter because they want to be at the center of the herd. They want to be as safe as possible. And Out of touch. Who's the guy? Conway, Conrad Conway. He's that doesn't begin to describe someone like him. He did the Punisher skull logo with the BLM thing over it because they're trying to take it back and defund the police. I don't know what part of the country he lives in or the world he lives in. I guarantee if that came to his neighborhood, defund the police came to his neighborhood, and BLM was outside his house, obviously he would change his tune really quickly because all these people are hypocrites. They're worms. They're absolute worms. Anyways, we need less of that kind of stuff, and we need more Chuck Dixon, Mike Miller, Myers, EVS, Ibe Canales, John Malin, and less of these fat, I'll call them developmentally disabled people, but the R word for that in the mainstream. It is fun to cringe farm. Comics have been dead for a long time. It's this perfect battlefield for far left, extreme left, panty-sniffing weirdos to take over. It's like, hey, we took over comics. Gail Simone and I forget the redhead lady who said, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my comics. I can't remember the name of her. Just absolute insane lack of self-awareness to say, it's like, okay, challenge accepted, because all that got canceled. We're taking over comics, boys. So how did it work out for you? Oh, we killed it. Was that the goal all along? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if you send incompetent people to do something, it's going to be done incompetently. Comics are pretty much just propaganda, which is all they write these days. SJWs on Twitter are just so... they're as triggered now as they were 4 years ago. If I had to assume, it's probably a new crop of SJWs. I haven't really been keeping track. I'm not on Twitter. So what you're seeing... with Comicsgate is a shift away from the gatekeepers of the mainstream industry, who kind of operate they have the ability to blacklist people, but as soon as you got a couple things working in people's favor, you got YouTube and crowdfunding, and all of a sudden you look at the mainstream, it's like, yeah, that's a great place to be if you're a big known name, but now they're not hiring on merit. They're doing things on diversity checklists, so the product is going to suck, but you're probably not going to get in there anyway. So why not just bypass it and own your own IP and enter the Comicsgate network, which is why it's so powerful. It gives you independence, but it also gives you the right to make and own something instead of just doing something for somebody else. Though, I mean, there's, it's like you're going to have to work kind of endlessly to promote it. It's like promotion turns out to be 90% of it, but then you also own it at the end of the day. So it's allowing people to be independent in a way that just wasn't possible like 10 years ago. And kind of the similar thing happened with Substack, Odyssey, Gab, Subscribestar, Coffee. And the funny thing is, I read this article today in The Guardian, I think. The mainstream media is starting to write articles about Substack to say they're giving out information that is harmful. So you have them, because what is Substack doing? It's bypassing the mainstream media. And when you go to The Guardian, every time you go to The Guardian, everything, you're going to get an ad that says, please support the Guardian. You've read, 40 articles this year. Please support us with a donation. It's like, why aren't you getting that off your ad revenue? Oh, because not enough people are reading the Guardian for the ad revenue to support us. Well, why is that? Because we're far left partisan hacks. I read that kind of stuff because I want to see what the opposition is saying. I want to go cringe farming. I like reading propaganda. The only reason people are willing to pay for all these, alt little micro media sources is because stuff like CNN, MSNBC, and Fox are just so obviously biased. People are so tired of reading corporate media where you've got 16 different news channels on a screen and they're all saying the same lines. That is some creepy totalitarian control right there. Gee, who owns these media companies? Oh, it's 6 companies that own everything you see on TV and radio. Oh, well, maybe we should investigate them. Oh, deplatformed, debanked, doxxed, fired, life destroyed. Wow, the media really doesn't like you to shine a flashlight on it. It's weird. Anyway, so that's why you're able to get stuff like Subscribestar and Substack and all this other kind of stuff. In every story they cover, they're making no attempt at being fair and impartial. It's like, isn't that what the media used to be? It got so bad that people just grabbed their camera and their microphone and a cell phone, a computer, and they started covering the news themselves. The mainstream is nothing more than, central party approval from North Korean Pravda. Anyway, Comicsgate is kind of an end run around the Marxist feminist propaganda, which is why the Twitter kids absolutely hate it. Even after years, you go on Twitter, it's like you punch in Comicsgate, and yeah, there's Comicsgate selling their stuff, and then there's these, I kind of get the feeling they're young people, or they're people who are kind of mentally stuck at a certain, almost use the R word, they're kind of stuck at a certain level of childhood of just keep repeating these phrases, Comicsgate's a hack group, Comicsgate's a hack group. Like, you wouldn't assign, like, are there people who are a little spicy in CG? For sure. But you wouldn't blame all members of a group, of any other group. So why would you do it to comics? And to be fair, there are people who are in the comments who are saying that, like, would you like to apply it to these other groups? And they mention them there. I won't say them here. And they don't have an answer to that, because they don't. I mean, they're just coming from a place of emotion. It's like, Comicsgate doesn't hurt you. If you enjoy the mainstream stuff, and I don't see how you could, hey, knock yourself out. Obviously, you're not reading Jawbreakers or, Iron Sights or Lone Star. It's like, you're not paying for this stuff because it's, it's like 40, 50, 60 bucks to get this stuff. There's no way you have any interest in it. So you just keep repeating Comicsgate's a hate group. It's childish, but I mean, you got a lot of childish people on Twitter who've got, all you need is a cell phone, and it doesn't take much to just parrot somebody's talking points. Anyway, I love how Comicsgate just keeps telling them, it keeps trolling them, because every time they go off on these rants, somebody in Comicsgate will go in there and drop their Indiegogo post. The thing is, always be selling. Comicsgate knows that, and the mainstream seem to have forgot that lesson. So when I look at Graham Nolan or stuff that Chuck Dixon's associated with, or Canales or Myers, I want to read it. I may not be able to afford all the stuff, but the desire is there. It captures your attention. It reminds me of Henry Rider Haggard, Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, Arthur Conan Doyle, action adventure without far left-wing propaganda. So what the left-wing strawmen do about Comicsgate is they always say, I thought you guys didn't want any politics in comics. I didn't say that. And to be fair, nobody wants overarching, just hitting you over the head with politics one way or the other. But, what is too much for you? What is propaganda for you? Write what you like, and if it sells, it sells. But I don't think people said no politics in comics. If you can make it work, go for it. It's just that what you see in the mainstream is just left-wing politics. You don't see a right-of-center, a nationalist perspective. It's all far-left Bolshevik propaganda. There is no diversity of thought in the mainstream. So I don't want these like Marxist comics. But, think about it. The alt-left considers family, tribalism, nationalism, or in-group preferences. Those are far-right ideals, except, of course, the rules don't apply to them. Vox does a comic about Romans. It's on his, he's got an online site where he does comics. The left would consider it far-right because it's a tribal group who are advancing their interests. The thing is, at this point, there's no point in talking to the left because all they do is ad hominem, and they won't present evidence for anything. They don't talk about what they like. They talk about you talking about what you don't like. It's freaking bizarre because, like, they don't have things that they can hold up, Star Wars or Ms. Marvel or anything in the mainstream. They can't really hold it up and say, oh, this is so great. And you're looking at it and go, well, why aren't more people buying it? It's like, this is a huge name. Everyone knows it. Before the Woofless thing was selling like 20,000 a month. And you look at it, it's like, okay, what did you like about it? The mindless propaganda. It's like, I'm tired of that. Most people are tired of it. That's why, this stuff is like, you have a $1 billion movie with a name recognition globally, and you have a comic that like 20,000 people are aware of. There's nothing you can do with the left wing. They're going to call you a Hugo Boss no matter what you do. At this point, if you're on Twitter, just block all those people. I wouldn't have said that a few years ago. I'll try to engage in the open marketplace of ideas and let's have a adult discussion about that. Just block them. There's no point. There's just like, they just keep posting memes of Comicsgate's a hack group. We're hacks. Fucking retards. Anyway, even the truckers group, which is opposing government authoritarianism, is called Supreme People. It's kind of a weird shift when the left wing openly are the brown shirts of the totalitarian government. I'm old enough to remember when liberals were actually pro-free speech and against the government authoritarianism. It seems like as they aged, they turned into left-wing authoritarians all on their own, rocking in the hashtag rocking in the free world. What a bunch of hypocritical clowns. Oh no, Joan Baez? Is that her? She's pulling her music from Spotify. Who? Who? Some pop stars from the 70s and 60s? Is that, you're talking about pop stars, right? Pop stars from like 50 years ago who at one time would have been up there with the truckers, guitar in hand, writing songs. What happened to these people? Well, you know, they sold out. Literally, in some cases, I don't think they even owned their music catalogs. They sold them to, I think he sold it to Spotify. So he didn't even own it. He had to talk to Spotify and say, hey, can we renegotiate this contract and we'll move it over to Apple or something so I can like virtue signal and look good. It's like, so you're an artist who sold out. You didn't even own your stuff. What does that say about you? It's like, you didn't need to sell out. You had enough money from touring. Like there's a lot of money to be made going on tours. It's like, you didn't need to sell that album. The collection, the collected works, the IP rights to it. It's like, you could have kept those yourself and you would have been doing fine. You would have been like a little millionaire from all the tour money and, you know, product sales and stuff. But like, you didn't need to sell the collection. You sold out because you wanted to sell out. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next episode.